You've heard me here, Stugotz, for a few years now, talking about how it's going to be really fascinating to see how some of your favorite sports media members age as the entire landscape shifts. It becomes a meritocracy. Now the athletes are coming for the podcasts. And so how are the media members that you're used to, whoever they are, Skip Bayless at 70, Stephen A. Smith at 56, Colin Cowherd, 60, Jim Rome in his 60s, me last segment. What's it going to sound like
last year
when these people age poorly? That's how it's going to sound. But Skip Bayless at 70 now is trying to keep up in a very competitive game. I just found uproariously wonderful and funny the thing that has now blossomed between Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, where ESPN and Fox are trading Michael Irvin and Keyshawn Johnson for Shannon Sharp. And now the argument shows are going to go against each other. And Skip's got to keep up with Stephen A. Stephen A., watch him closely because that dude's a conqueror. And he's already creating something outside of ESPN just in case some falls apart. He's talking a lot about
backup plan.
I might be next, and he's just building his own thing, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be different. Skip tried to get in podcasts. It's not working. Stephen A. has gotten in. It is working. Stephen A., that used to be Skip's show. Skip brought in Stephen A. They are friends. Stephen A. just took the guy that was made by Skip after Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, just took it. And Skip Bayless's answer is, I'm going to pour tequila and rum and whiskey together. They're all good by themselves. And let's see if we make a giant explosion. And yesterday they did, because Skip Bayless either they made the mistake or had the genius of putting Richard Sherman, Michael Irvin, and Keyshawn Johnson in his studio for his first show back after 2 months off, when there are anonymous quotes, Stugotz, coming out of Fox that Skip Bayless was afraid of Nick Wright disemboweling him, didn't want a serious debate, didn't want somebody who would make him look bad or worse than he does as the face of hater, critic, media member for all time, I think. I think Skip Bayless has pioneered that he is the greatest hater of this toxic age of judging the hell out of the athletes. Hey, LeBron, yeah, second place all time. You choker. He is the face of this, and what he has decided to do, and this part's fascinating to me. Every athlete he's been killing and crushing for 20 years sits next to him now, and they want the mic, and they want the ball. Michael Irvin's in trouble. Michael Irvin's competitive. That's 3 generations of the loudest loudmouth in football. 3 of them. Keyshawn, Richard Sherman, and Michael Irvin. Holy Skip, they're going to take your show. And that's not a terrible way to evolve at 70 if he's willing to be the joke, if he's willing to not take himself seriously and just allow the floor to a bunch of people who are really good at television. Like Michael Irvin, say what you want. He can be on any channel. Now, NFL Network doesn't know if they want to put him on any channel because there are all sorts of dangers involved. But no one on television has the resume of just apocalyptic scandal away from football. Like just stuff, being famous for bringing in a golden age of Jerry Jones, 90s football. Cowboys are scary. They're in your face. He comes from the University of Miami. He's been great at television always, and he keeps getting chances that you wouldn't normally get if you weren't great at television. And yesterday, he stole that show. Just stole it. Getting up from his chair, yelling at Richard Sherman, and that's what he is now, Skip Bayless, is going against, and it's To have 3 Shannon Sharps there is hard, Stugotz. Now, that was just one day. That's not how they're going to do it, I would imagine.
It was just one day, and I think Rachel Nichols is also in the mix as well. We discussed that yesterday. But you think Skip Bayless is going to be okay with this? Like, you think this is the heel turn for Skip at the end of his career?
I don't think he knows what he just welcomed. I don't think that he understands. He told Keyshawn Johnson yesterday, you talk too much. And Keyshawn said to him, you didn't just say that to me. That's the first show. Keyshawn's... Of the 3 that they're putting up there, I would rather have on my side as television personalities Richard Sherman and Michael Irvin. And Michael Irvin is a television personality in sports for all time. Whether you like him or not, he steals shows. He's willing to make a fool of himself and be really loud at a time that the greatest currency is, can you get attention? Millions of views yesterday for a show that nobody's watching in real time. They're watching it in clips. I mean, some people are watching it in real time, but to get millions of views is how Skip stays in the game. He's got Lil Wayne doing the intro song to what it is that they're doing on Undisputed. He took No Mercy. I thought that was Stephen A's podcast, No Mercy. Did Stephen A change the name of his podcast? Because Lil Wayne is, why is there no mercy around the sports commentary? What are we doing?
No mercy, Dan. Come on.
It's a classic no situation. You know what I mean? The N-O versus the K-N-O-W. That's what Stephen A has is the K-N-O-W mercy. Lil Wayne is no mercy. N-O. Say it's like 2-2-2. We don't need to get into this.
What are you guys thinking about all of this?
Well, I'm thinking Skip Bayless is not happy with the first show. He might be happy with the views, but I think Skip plans on going out being Skip. I don't think he wants to share the microphone that much with anyone. Now he's doing it with three guys who are very, very good at this, but I don't think Skip wants to be made fun of. I think Skip still has plenty of hot takes to give. I think Skip wants to be the guy that dominates that show and will be the guy that dominates that show. Otherwise, he will get one of them fired. I believe that. I'm serious. It's Skip's show. I mean, he's the greatest ever at it, him and Stephen A.
I wonder what the show meeting was like off air after the first show, because
I'm certain he complains.
he, of course he did. And 4 is one too many, right? Like, why do they need Keyshawn Johnson? Like, 4 is too many. That's the first thing I would say if I were Skip. And the second thing is, Michael, I want you to be you. I love the bombast. Keep standing up out of your chair. Do whatever you have to do. But I need to be more a part of this show. I just have to be. You know, I don't need to dominate, but I don't want to be a moderator who barely speaks on my own show. So I think the second show is going to be the one that's interesting, and it's going to say a lot.
It's going to be all Skip.
Skip
debating Skip.
That is today. But let me ask you the real question, because these people are very competitive, Stugotz, and it's hard to keep up. It really is. For Skip Bayless to still be doing it at 70, you almost have to be the hater who knows how to get attention, because that's the lane that he chose.
Sure.
And is still relevant in that lane. As his own executives are being quoted anonymously saying, Skip is no longer in charge here. Stephen A. is Skip's daddy, was the quote. The quotes coming from his own building are the word disembowel if he were to compete with Nick Wright in real arguments, not the performative wrestling stuff that this is. Skip Bayless, for better or worse, represents, Stugotz, the face that athletes think of when there's the media. They're not on my side. They're haters. They're not here to celebrate anything over the last 20 years. They're here to figure out how to blame me so they can make $1 debating it. He's the face of that.
I know he is, and he takes a great amount of pride, I believe, in being that face, and I don't think he's just going to let that go. Like, do you think he's going to let that go at age 70?
I don't think he knows what he's welcomed here. It's not.
I think he knows.
But he just ran off Shannon Sharp, Stugotz. That was a partnership that could have kept working, and Shannon Sharp didn't like the treatment.
Yeah, but Skip is a smart guy, Dan.
Yeah.
Like, he knows putting 3 people in there, he's going to talk less. I don't think he expected what he experienced yesterday, but he knows he's going to talk less. Naturally, he's putting 3 guys in there, 3 guys with big opinions.
You guys sound silly. You think Skip has lost a step?
I don't.
Let me tell you what he said today. Trey Lance's ceiling is higher than Dak. This was a steal of a deal for Jerry, and I applaud it. That's one take. Then also, Skip remains very high on Baker Mayfield. You guys think that this is done for
It's a great
Skip?
take, yeah.
You guys are fools. How do you think this is going to end for him?
The question I guess I'm posing before all of you is, the victory is attention, correct? That's now the measurement. The measurement is, can you figure out at the trough where everyone's competing? Paul George's got a great podcast. Cameron's got a great podcast. Everybody is competing for this space. How do you get attention? Do you realize that when you're getting millions of views on social media, you are 10 times the numbers that these shows do on television, on linear television? These shows do 300,000, 400,000 people. When Michael Irvin stands up and the argument in August is about how to catch a football. They made like minutes and minutes of television with Richard Sherman and Michael Irvin just yelling at each other on the extremes of the proper way to catch a football. That was the clip that's
Did
where
you tape the episode?
No, because it's the clip that went viral, Stugotz. Millions of people saw Skip Bayless like Homer Simpson retreating into the bushes on his own show because Michael Irvin is standing up using the whole space to yell at the camera.
But he can't debate that, Skip. Even Skip cannot debate the proper way to catch a football. I mean, that's why you have Michael Irvin.
My point is when two guys can get that passionate arguing for 6 minutes about something, it's not Skip Bayless's place anymore. He's gotten bumped out.
Oh, my Satan. Now we're not just debating sports. We're debating debate about sports. Oh, I don't know what's going on with you, but I like it. It's a family trauma.
Do you find anything interesting about yesterday's? These are the industry standards. Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith speak for a generation of media types.
It's all the circus. I don't really have strong thoughts on it. I think it's funny if you have an entertaining clip on mute, which is how I experienced that with Michael Irvin talking about hand catches versus body catches. I didn't even have to listen with the sound on. I was on an airplane, and I found it entertaining. And that's what daytime television is all about. It's about getting metrics on social media now that they can sell against. It's about being in the conversation. I think they made a good hire in terms of getting that kind of attention. But I also know Skip doesn't like being boxed out. And I kind of agree with Greg that you probably don't need Keyshawn Johnson.
Was Skip Bayless not aware of Michael Irvin's personality, of what he was signing up to put on his air? Michael Irvin is going to be Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin has to allow Bayless to have more of Bayless's show, right? I mean, seriously, Skip needs to ask Michael for permission to talk more. I mean, that's what has to happen right now.
This is the new and improved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
Everyone's very excited around here to talk to Ron Magill. A whole bunch of people have a whole bunch of different questions to ask him. It never gets old. I will remind you again, this is the only charitable effort that we do around here consistently. The Ron Magill Endowment sends your money directly to the care of the animals. A lot to talk to Ron Magill about today. But before we bring him in, let's just do our horrifying climate fact of the day.
Die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. The sky seems to be falling, and we're all wondering why. Let's turn on the news and find out how we're gonna die.
As many as 7,000 baby penguins have perished after a near total loss of sea ice in Antarctica. According to the lead author of the study that discovered the tragedy of the Empire penguins, quote, if they get immersed, the chicks will drown. If they get back onto the ice floe, they will freeze because they don't have their waterproof feathers. It's very hard to think of these cute, fluffy chicks dying in large numbers. I was shocked. Ron, you have Empire penguins, and right now in Florida, in Miami, it's 98 degrees. And
I think it's Emperor penguins, Dan. Emperor, not Empire.
I'm sorry.
It's a
Thank
fine.
you. Yes,
Also
that
a
is,
Suey
That'd be a
nominee.
Suey nominee. Yes.
that is a
Yes.
fine. Yes. Thank you.
$2.
But you have those at the zoo, correct?
We don't have penguins at the zoo. We have a zoo in freaking Florida. Why would we have penguins at the zoo, Dan? We got it right next to the polar bear exhibit.
Wow.
Mistake category. You're killing it
the
here.
Worst, the rare worst mistake after the initial mistake.
I've got it right here in my notes.
Really?
That there are penguins in the Miami Zoo?
Yeah, it must be true then if it's in your notes.
Yeah, they're. Oh, maybe those are the elusive Empire penguins. Maybe it's those.
Ron, You talked last week when you were on with us about the tragedy of Lolita at the Miami Seaquarium. And I know my wife and some others are going out there to protest this weekend because it's not like the atrocities there are over. What can you speak to? Because I know these carnival amusements where they lock animals in cruel spaces are something that's done all over the world, but it feels pretty backward for us to be doing it here in Miami.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't work at the Seaquarium. I'm not there, so I can't really comment firsthand what's going on there, but I've heard from other people and things are not well. I mean, there's a comment on Twitter, and I'm just hoping. I'm hoping this guy just got hacked, okay? The guy who's the CEO of the Dolphin Company, which now is managing Seaquarium, this guy responded to a tweet. I'm going to read this verbatim because I cannot believe it. You guys need to find out if this guy was hacked. But I checked his account. It's still on there. He hasn't pulled it down. Some woman writes, she goes, and now let's see what happens to Little. Another 2 years before his release plan and random death. Little, for those of you who don't know, is the dolphin that was the companion to Lolita. And this woman is obviously referring to the point that, they've been planning to move Lolita for years and nothing ever happened. And then the fact that, random death, they were questioning the death of this whale. And this guy, Eduardo Albor, responds. He's the CEO of the Dolphin Company. He responds to that woman. He goes, come on, woman, 2 years? At least another 52 years, with 3 smiley face emojis afterwards. And then he writes, still is less than the time will take for you to use your brain for the first time. Still brand new, with a laughing smiley face with tears. And then he goes, losers, and he spells it Loosers. I am really...
That guy is great. That guy is me. That guy is amazing.
Well, I'm hoping that this really isn't this guy. Because if that's the case, what is happening at the Seaquarium has got to be borderline criminal. But it's off his freaking Twitter feed. I mean, I pulled it right off the feed, okay? That's this guy responds to someone who's passionate about what's happening to those animals there. Really, guys? Crap.
I mean, speaking of criminal, could there be possible penalties for how the Seaquarium's handling these animals?
Listen, I don't know. I can't comment because I'm not there firsthand. What I do know is what I read on this guy's Twitter feed, who's the CEO. Again, I'm hoping that he was hacked, okay? But it hasn't been pulled down yet. If I got hacked and somebody said something like that, putting words in my mouth, man, I make sure that thing got pulled off my feed as quickly as possible. It's still there.
And you're sure it's a verified account and it's not someone impersonating? It'd be a hell of a parody account for somebody to be this character, cruel to animals, and then just laughing at protesters and people. Like it would be an amazing character to pull off. Guy who is just trolling by being mean to the animals and then mean to customers who would support the animals.
Guys, I don't know because, again, I think the internet is one of these horrible double-edged swords. You don't know what to believe anymore on the internet. But that comment has got me so enraged, so fumed. And I'm just praying it really wasn't this guy. Because if it's not, I'm so really worried about everything that's happening over there. If somebody can be as insensitive as that. And even if it's not this guy, whoever the jerk is who did it, I hope they track him down. I hope they find this person.
Ron, what can you tell us about wild monkey sightings in Florida? I think there was one in Orange City. There's been a couple of more. What can you tell us about it?
Listen, there are primates throughout the state of Florida. There's a whole range of them up by Silver Springs and Silver Springs River. They've been there, a population for years. There's a population here, I think, in Fort Lauderdale someplace. Some of the vervets, they're out there. And then you have these isolated incidences where people who've had monkeys as quote-unquote pets realize they're not very good pets. They escape, and they're thriving through the woods. And, again, you get out, escape here in South Florida. It's not like escaping in Michigan in December. Here you're out in Club Med, and these things are thriving. People go, oh, my God, we got monkeys now. I don't think anything shocks anybody here in Florida anymore. But yes, we have monkeys that are out. There's several reproducing populations, and then we have the isolated escapees that as soon as somebody gets some video and it gets on the internet and it goes viral, then everybody's worried about monkeys again.
Well, let's show that viral video of that monkey being a little bit crazed as a monkey might be, capable of doing inside of a house. I guess it's a pet monkey, I'm going to assume. I don't think it's a monkey that just sort of made its way into the home. So they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like a little. Oh, it's a vervet. Yeah, it's a vervet monkey from Africa. And those are little heathens. In Africa, they will go into your vehicle. They'll steal all your stuff. They'll poop all over your room. They're nasty little. Oh God! Look at them! Look at them! There you
Jesus!
There you go. There you go.
Biting a human arm, crazed, jumped in the bath. That is a crazy animal. What is happening there?
What happened to your
Oh, he's got.
What was that sound? Yeah, rubbing off on you.
Did I make a sound?
No, that was me.
No, Dan.
That was me. I'm struggling this segment.
Let's go ahead and isolate that.
Yeah.
Please.
It was a sort of half snort. I felt it. This monkey's still running around. What is this thing? Like, what is this thing doing? And if that gets into your house, that's dangerous.
It can very well be dangerous. Absolutely. The only thing worse than a monkey bite is a human bite.
Wow. Hey, Ron.
That can't be true. There's worse things.
I'm gonna take shark bite.
Yeah,
that can't be true.
I'm not talking about the risk of
bite.
losing an arm or death. I'm talking about the risk of infection. Infection.
Snake.
Ron, at the Brights Zoo in Tennessee, there was a female giraffe just born who was thought to be the only solid-colored reticulated giraffe in the entire world. Is there any significance to that birth?
Now, that's a genetic mutation is what it is. And I do believe that's the first time I've ever seen that in my life. This is not an albino. It's not a melanistic animal. It's an animal for some reason where just the tan coloration bled out over all the white, and it's this solid tan giraffe. So I've never seen one like that, but it's just a genetic mutation. You know, it's kind of like you have someone who might have
is that a llama, Ron?
It is.
Yeah, that's a llama.
Yeah,
that's not a
giraffe.
giraffe.
It is a llama.
It's a giraffe.
No,
And
it's a
Cody,
llama.
don't
It's a
even
llama,
go there.
Ron. Yeah.
Don't it's
Trust
a
me.
giraffe, and don't even go about with the butter knife under its belly, okay?
Quick,
Yeah, I just want to ink that in the butt.
Ron, quick follow-up on that. If this female giraffe without spots bears children, are they likely to look like her? In other words, do we have a whole subspecies of giraffe on the horizon?
Let me tell you something. It's not a subspecies because the genetic mutation does not designate a species.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody says, oh, my God, I want to have that giraffe. And they start breeding it for this anomaly because it becomes more valuable that way. It's because it's rare and more people are going to want to come and see it. And then they'll just breed it into the inbreeding coefficient where they start getting like 4 or 5-legged giraffes and, cross-eyed giraffes. This is a bad thing that people do. They get a certain physical trait that occurs in an animal. Yes, if that animal has an offspring, it's certainly going to carry the gene for that mutation. Not that its offspring is going to carry that mutation, but then they'll breed it back to its brother or its sister, so you have a better, chance of getting the offspring looking like that, which is going to be the cash cow. It's what they did with white tigers for many years. Even in zoos, they started breeding brothers to sisters, mothers to sons, just to make sure they got white tiger babies, no matter what the damage was that was done through the inbreeding problem that occurred. And that's why white tigers in this country are so screwed up.
We've got a situation here where I feel some of us, based on the mistake category, no one more than me, are playing a little bit scared. Chris Cody just whispered in my ear that he heard Ron Magill say, ink that in the butt. And I think he said, nip that in the butt. But I'm not sure what you said.
You're rattled, man.
Chris Cody
Yeah.
didn't want to do ink that in the butt. He is hiding now behind his hand unsuccessfully. Did you indeed say that you wanted to ink that in the butt?
I may have. Like the guy say, I'm flustered right now. I'm a little amped up right now. So I could have said ink that in the butt. Sure, makes it permanent. What is that noise? Is that you, Dan?
Yeah, is it?
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh jeez, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
is it?
That sounds like our petting zoo corral area. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like our Cooney pig when she gets upset. Oh goodness gracious! Sounds like a good that sounds like a good out, guys.
Yeah, is it?
Oh, by the way, Cody, I take offense to you thinking that Lionel Richie was schmaltzy. Lionel Richie's
sorry.
romantic, man. Okay,
I know you love. Thank you.
This is the new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
in an effort to age Stugotz even more poorly, because I did wander away from Greg Cody and Ron Magill, palling around talking about Lionel Richie, arguing, like really having jocular talk where it felt like they were both dancing on the ceiling, just talking again and again, nonstop, about how much they love Lionel Richie. It reminded me of the quote I mentioned yesterday from Vic Fangio that I did not. I'm waiting for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. I did not actually quote him because the defensive coordinator who is here to make the Dolphins special at defense, because he knows more than anyone else and is a genius, and he takes great defense with him. He says, quote, I like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the music. I shouldn't say music. The noise that they usually play in the team meetings is not music. It's noise.
That's great. Get off my lawn.
That is the show that you want to do. You want to do the show that talks to Vic Fangio on your podcast about Lionel Richie.
That's right. Not about the Dolphins defense, just about Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes in that era. That's correct.
Why don't you get it done? I mean,
you know what? I would love that. That'd actually be a good podcast. Have on people who are famous in their field and have them on to talk about nothing about what they're famous for, just about music. But, look, Ron Magill is a huge Lionel Richie fan. I knew that going in. I just happen to prefer Earth, Wind, and Fire. Lionel Richie's very schmaltzy, talks too much. Old-timey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You just
Keyshawn Johnson.
He's Keyshawn Johnson. That's what I was going to say. It's exactly how he talked.
He does.
So you're like Lionel, sing. I came here to hear you sing, not play around with the crowd.
He's too schmaltzy. He's telling cringy jokes about, hey, fellas, I'm warming up the ladies for you. It's just, I don't even want to repeat the kind of things he's saying. It's cringy. And I'm at my age thinking it's cringy.
Speaking of cringy.
My hero, Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire, does not, he sings, he performs. He doesn't tell cringy jokes.
He's your hero because you played golf with him in Tahoe.
And he sang on my podcast. Party on! That kind of thing.
Right. An original Tabro.
Whatever that means. But anyway, what were you saying? Get back to your show.
Speaking of cringy, thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of cringy, the Spanish soccer story, I don't mean to laugh, but we have reached an age of such total shamelessness from people who you'd want accountability from, that the move in politics and sports is now to just lean into someone's telling you to resign. I'm not only not going to resign, bleep all of you. I'm just going to be maximum shameless. Resignation means I have to have a degree of shame about what I've done. No, you should be ashamed about making me feel ashamed. So Luis Rubiales, have you seen this video, Stugotz? Have you seen the audio? Do you know the controversy we're talking about?
I do. We discussed it a little bit yesterday, but that's the Trump effect, right?
It seems to be all over politics, and it's startling to see this, right? You will not cancel me because I kissed a woman on the lips against her will in front of people.
Yeah, cancel culture, or the assumption, you can debate whether or not cancel culture is actually real or not. Some people ride that wave to great financial success here in the United States. But over in Europe, it is not necessarily a thing, and as sordid as our own history is in our country with the fair pay equality stuff in women's soccer and all those things like Title IX, we are so much further ahead than Europe.
Just look at Spanish television on Saturday night to understand how, no joke, that America in this regard is somehow less cavemen than what you would think of misogyny from Latin men, for example.
I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. Way to go, America. We're better than Europe, because that's a really low bar to clear. But Europe is incredibly disappointing. And Luis Rubiales, who picked up one of his players by the legs and cradled her in the arm, then at another point in celebration grabbed at his penis and celebrated a goal that way, just completely unprofessional all around, kissed Hermoso on the lips during a medal ceremony with the eyes of the world on him. He has been unabashed about this, and there was a press conference. It was announced And the assumption was he was going to resign at this press conference. That's what all the assembled media was told, that the Spanish FA had come to an agreement, and he was to announce his resignation. We have audio here. It's going to be in Spanish. For those watching on video, there are subtitles to it, and we will give you the gist of it after it plays. But this, in his best Wolf of Wall Street impression, Dan.
This is what it is. It's Wolf of Wall Street in Spanish, where he is doubling down on the idea, bleep me? No, bleep you.
Asesinarme públicamente, me voy a defender. Me voy a defender como cualquier español donde se tiene que defender, en los juzgados. Voy a ejercer acciones contra estas personas. Como me habéis enseñado vosotros, voy a seguir luchando. ¿Pero creen ustedes que eso es para sufrir la cacería que estoy sufriendo? ¿Sinceramente lo creen? Otra cosa es lo que uno tenga que decir públicamente, pero ¿ustedes creen que es para esta cacería? ¿Para que pidan mi dimisión? ¿Es tan grave como para que yo me vaya habiendo hecho la mejor gestión de la historia del fútbol español? ¿Ustedes creen que tengo que dimitir? Pues les voy a decir algo. No voy a dimitir. No voy a dimitir. No voy a dimitir. No voy a dimitir. No voy a dimitir.
A standing ovation now.
Because he said 7 times, I'm not going to resign. And what he's turned himself into here is the victim, because he said he's not going to suffer the persecution. He's reminding everyone this is the greatest job ever done by anyone in the history of Spanish soccer. I'm the victim here. Do you think that I deserve this great suffering that I'm enduring? I'm defending myself. I'm going to fight. And you saw that he was surrounded by applause.
I can't believe that people were applauding that way. It was a weird kind of applause. Applauding, excuse me. You're rubbing off on me. But anyway, what I was saying is I cannot believe that was the reaction, because people were kind of like looking around. Like, should I applaud?
Yes.
Should I stand? It was like a half standing ovation. It wasn't a full standing ovation. But, Dan, haven't things started to turn on him? Like, people are turning against him. Some of the people in that room who were applauding.
No. This is the move if you don't want to resign. Make someone come and grab you. You have to force someone to enforce the rules on you are shameless. Here, we're going to show you that there are consequences for that. Here is the shame. But if he's willing to endure what he's already enduring and double downing on it and saying I'm a victim and saying I'm here to fight and defend myself, he's making himself the opposite of what he's enduring, quote unquote, right now. He's making himself a freedom fighter.
Yeah, and in line with his defense, he's actually argued that Hermosa put the moves on him, that she was a person that tried to kiss him in terms of making himself the victim, and his mother has come out and said she is in active hunger strike. She has locked herself into a church because of how unfairly her son has been treated, and part of his open defiance there was him taking credit for the success that his women's players had on the field. I've done the best job that you want. Why would I resign? I'm the best possible manager of this federation. Yeah, how dare you ask me to resign after we just won a World Cup, even though I sexually assaulted
But is there
members of the
a
team?
space somewhere in here? Is there anywhere within here that he could not lose his job and simply apologize for invading? Like, just apologize in a way.
He's not apologizing.
Well, this all stemmed. He did apologize. He did apologize. This all stemmed. The press conference for him to step down was people were very dissatisfied with his apology. He did put out an apology video where he was just trying to move on, make excuses, and not certainly as defiant as that, but it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way to the point that the decision was allegedly made. He's stepped down, and now there's all sorts of punitive measures that FIFA is considering. Spain is like, yeah, go ahead and bring it. Kick us out of UEFA. He has got a lot of support. What he's met with the rest of the world, and especially the eyes of the Americans, is how can this be allowed to happen? But you saw in that room with the standing ovation, he is met with more support than opposition.
Well, from everything I've read, there's been an uprising, an uproar in Spain about him and his behavior. And what matters to me much more than his diatribe is the fact that the victim says, no, it was not a consensual kiss. And she's very offended and hurt and dare say traumatized by what happened. And the victim here is the Spanish women's team, which wins a World Cup, overcomes so much dysfunction. I mean, even prior to the World Cup, half of the team signs a petition saying that the team is being run poorly, that they're put off by some of what's happening within the team. They overcome that. They win the World Cup anyway, and now overshadowing their wonderful triumph is this asinine comment or activity and behavior by this guy. He should resign or be fired. I don't see an alternative.
Yeah,
there.
they don't like their manager either. If you saw videos of
Right.
them celebrating the World Cup, the manager was dancing by himself. He kept looking to be hugged and embraced by some of his players, and they ignored him. And his staff was not retained. He was. And his strongest ally, Luis Rubiales.
Right, and half of his team signed a petition, not specifically
They
saying
quit,
we
Greg.
want them out.
They
but-
quit.
You have
yes.
you have male soccer players. The women's team have come out and said things like there's an active boycott. You have players refusing to play for the national team.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think the only thing that gets any real traction over there in Spain, because this is how things are working over there presently in Europe, is once it starts affecting the men's programs, and it could even trickle down to the club ranks, then you might see movement on this right now. But you would have thought if he was planning to go out and the powers that be said you're going to go out there and resign, and he gave that kind of defiant press conference, and he is still to this day in power, it lets you know that he actually still has quite a bit.
But when you have players who are threatening to not play, players who just won the World Cup, okay, and they are threatening to quit and not play anymore, don't you think ultimately the players win out?
No, because they're women.
Okay, it's not just the current Spanish women's players. It's 58 former Spanish women's players have joined forces with the current team.
Yes, but acknowledging that they did something wrong and he has to step down signals a change in the way that men in power have to behave.
Exactly.
And they will not give them that.
Okay, well, they need to be influenced to do that or forced to do it.
I just don't.
Maybe by FIFA.
I don't get why you just can't be genuinely really sorry.